We had one woman that lost her son 6 months ago, and she said she has not really smiled since this past Tuesday when she got to come on the bus with all these little rambunctious dogs. And then it just kind of happened that I got 2 chickens off of a chicken truck. They had fallen off a chicken truck 2 separate times. And it was a really cute little story because the first chicken really couldn't make any friends. And so once this second chicken came along, they kind of like fell in love. So we actually did that, and it actually went viral worldwide. So it was amazing to see how many people actually cared about little animals. I've got one myself that just came in that had been on a 2-foot rope for the last however many months or years. And now she's getting to live the life of a dog bus dog and go on all these adventures. I would say the hardest part about it is your sleepless nights that you get anytime an animal is sick and you don't know what's wrong.
Welcome back to Tales of Fluff. I'm AJ.
And I'm Emily. Today's episode starts with a dog bus that's doing more than just taking dogs on adventures.
Because this bus isn't just about fun. It's about connection, healing, and giving dogs and people moments they didn't even know they needed.
But as we quickly learned, the dog bus is only part of a much bigger story. Today, we're joined by Erin, the founder of the Storybook Sanctuary, a farm-based sanctuary that officially launched last summer, but is rooted in decades of rescuing animals that had nowhere else to go.
We talk about what sanctuary life really looks like, the joy, the grief, the responsibility, along with the unexpected moments that shaped this journey. From 2 chickens that sparked a viral story to a community that rallied behind the sanctuary.
And we also dive into the creative side of it all, including children's storybooks inspired by real rescue animals created to teach empathy and compassion from a young age.
We're excited to share this episode with you guys. So let's jump in. We started by asking when the Storybook Sanctuary began and what inspired that very first step.
So the sanctuary started this summer legally, like everything's in place, like an actual animal sanctuary. But I have been rescuing for years and years, ever since I was 16 years old, and I'm 47 now. But as we moved here to the farm, people just kept calling me, they'd have an injured animal or somehow that it would come across my path and I would take it in. And so I saw a need because there was really all the other rescues around us were always full. Nobody could take any incoming animals. So I would just take them and rehab them or just let them live out their lives here. And then it just kind of happened that I got 2 chickens off of a chicken truck. They had fallen off a chicken truck 2 separate times. And it was a really cute little story because the first chicken really couldn't make any friends. And so once this second chicken came along, they kind of like fell in love. So it was this whole little fun thing to where like the news reporter came out and did a little story on them. And we joked around about, oh, we should have put them in little wedding dresses and a wedding dress and tux and all that. And so we actually did that, and it actually went viral worldwide. So it was amazing to see how many people actually cared about little animals like chickens. So I was like, if this can go this far online, around the community, all that, we really could have something here. So we started it up this summer, and the community has really rallied around us. And so it's also helping me, financially, volunteer wise, all that kind of stuff, because I was kind of getting overwhelmed with everything. So that's how it started. And the chickens were pretty much the inspiration for actually starting a real sanctuary.
It was interesting how she pointed out that it officially started last summer, but the truth is, she's been helping animals in need since she was 16. So this wasn't something that happened overnight. It was decades of helping animals in need.
Exactly. It's truly amazing to think about how many animals she has probably helped in that time frame. And then came the chickens. That whole moment that turned into something way bigger than anyone expected.
And that's what pushed her to make it official. Realizing if this many people care about two chickens, imagine what's possible.
From there, we shifted into a project that became a huge part of what she does, the dog bus. We asked how it's impacted both the dogs and the community.
So the dogs, I knew that it would have an impact on the dogs immediately. There's dog buses out there. You see them on TikTok, you see them on Instagram and all that. You see how happy these dogs are getting to go with their friends and go play and all that. But now that I'm getting to do it for my own community, it's been amazing. Like I've had dogs that have come in that have just one of them just lost their only sibling and they got depressed. And so they come with me and we go on the dog bus for these little adventures and their whole world has perked up. Or all these rescue stories where, I've got one myself that just came in that had been on a 2-foot rope for the last however many months or years. And now she's getting to live the life of a dog bus dog and go on all these adventures. So the overall happiness of these dogs and their owners has been amazing. As far as the community goes, that's a whole other ball game. I thought going into this that this would be really cool. Kids would really love this. Like we could do some educational programs and really tie in not only, with the dog bus where they could start knowing all the dogs' names and personalities and all that, but we could then integrate in with the sanctuary because we do mainly farm animals at the sanctuary. And what I found is it's all over the place. It's 20-year-old women, it's 50-year-old men, it's 60-year-old women. I mean, they all absolutely love this. It makes them so happy to watch these videos online every day. And we have started doing things like we went to the parade last week and got to let everybody see the dogs in action. And then, like this past week, we did a kind of a pick me up, a Christmas pick me up. Like we had some people write in, like who needs a pick me up, who's had a bad year, and we let 4 different groups of people come on the bus this week and pass out Christmas trees to the dog. And just to see their reactions to this bus full of dogs has been absolutely amazing. It has been, we had one woman that lost her son 6 months ago, and she said she has not really smiled since this past Tuesday when she got to come on the bus with all these little rambunctious dogs and get to pet them and love on them and give them treats. And she said that just made her whole year. So I can see it being more and more in the future. But as of right now, our whole community has just like banded around and gotten behind this whole idea. It's been great.
Hearing her talk about the dog's happiness was everything, and what it can mean to a dog to have something like a dog bus with other dogs that they can play with and go on adventures with.
Especially the ones coming from grief or really hard rescue situations. And suddenly they're going on adventures with friends.
Exactly what I was thinking. Like that rescue dog she mentioned who had been tied to a 2-foot rope for who knows how long, and now she's living the life of a dog bus dog. It's just incredible the impact something like this can have on a dog's life.
Absolutely. And you know what? It really surprised me how much it impacted people as well.
Same. She thought it would be just mostly kids, and instead, it's the entire community, from 20-year-olds to 60-year-olds.
And that story about the woman who hadn't smiled in 6 months until she came on the dog bus and spent time with the dogs, that right there is extremely powerful.
It truly was. And I must say, seeing their TikTok videos of the dog bus is adorable. So I can only imagine getting to experience that in person.
Yes, I also saw those TikToks, and it's so fun to see the dogs so happy and ready to go on their adventures together. And you can really tell Erin has built something really, really special. And because his sanctuary is built around stories, we asked about another part of her work, the children's storybooks based on real rescue animals.
So the goal behind that, I have always been pretty obsessed with the children's book world. And it's really the graphics and the little animals and how they have little personalities and all that. So what I do with these storybooks is I'm a photographer too, and animals are my absolute favorite thing to photograph. So we had, for instance, we've had a load of kittens that came to us. And so I was just giving them a cute little photo session because, we were going to try to get them adopted out. And it ended up turning into a whole little storybook. So I really want to capture like their real life personalities, put them into this book. You see all the little cartoon type storybooks, which are cute and all that, and they have little personalities. But I think if kids can actually see from a young age that animals really do have feelings, I mean, I believe they have souls, and they each have their own little way of life. Like I've always loved the statement, every little life is big to the one living it. And so I want them to then go out into the world. And when they see a little kitty cat stranded on the side of the road, they're not going to try to shoo it away, or, a goose comes up to them wanting a snack. They're not going to try to chase it down and hurt it and all that. So I really want to instill empathy and compassion into these kids at a young age with all of our real life rescue stories through the storybooks.
You could tell this isn't about making cute books. It's about shaping how kids see animals.
Capturing their real personalities and showing kids that animals have feelings and that their lives matter.
The idea and passion behind it is amazing. Then we switch to a whole different topic, a unique topic, pigeons. We asked Erin what it's truly like owning these birds.
Hilarious is what it is. So pigeons just kind of happened upon me. So I get a call one day, and it was this pigeon that would not leave, and it had a little band on its foot, which means that it probably belonged to somebody. And you can look those bands up and you can figure out who they belong to. Like, so if somebody was trying to race them or trying to teach them how to go from, use them for weddings or something like that. You've seen they call them doves, but they are pigeons that they use for like the wedding releases and stuff. So they might get lost, and then they really don't do well when they're just by themselves out and about. Predators will come, they can't find, they don't really make their nest. They find little perches and things like that. So I took this one in, and he was just hilarious. I put him in with my chickens, even though they say not to do that, but my pigeons live in my chickens and they're wonderful. And he decided he was going to be a chicken. So he did everything a chicken did. And then it just happened to snowball, and more people found out that I had this pigeon. And so, somebody would call about this pigeon over in this county, or this one's over here. He's stuck on a rooftop and he won't come down. And so we would get those pigeons. Or we have a wild bird sanctuary that's in Atlanta. It's not mine, but a lady named Nancy does that. So she will call me if she ever gets pigeons in, because they're not wild birds. They're more domesticated. So now we have a whole little pigeon family in with our chickens, and they are so funny. Like, they mate for life. And if somebody's on their perch and they don't want them on their perch, they're going to slap the heck out of them with their wing. If you try to even pet them, they're going to slap you, which is the funniest thing ever. But they're very, very, very smart animals. And, people rag on them pretty hard because they say they're gross and all that, but they're actually pretty cool species. So,
I can already picture that, a coop full of chickens and pigeons. That's
yeah.
hilarious.
And I never knew that people raced pigeons. Is that what you said?
Yeah, they will race them. Yeah, it's a huge thing. Like, look up racing pigeons or release, like pigeon releases, dove releases. That's what they do too.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look that up because I used to live in Pennsylvania and we had like wild pigeons that were all around, but I would
Yeah,
have never guessed people actually raced them.
yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. Yeah, I'm usually like, when we go to cities or go out of town or something, I'm the only one that likes to look at all the pigeons. I like to interact with all the pigeons if I can, give them snacks, even though, most people try to shoo them away, but I really like pigeons a lot.
The idea of pigeons living with chickens and deciding they're chickens was absolutely hilarious.
That was interesting, but it was also eye-opening. Learning how many end up lost because of racing or releases. And as I pointed out in the audio, I didn't even know people raced pigeons. That was new to me.
I didn't either. And I also like that even animals people overlook, she sees their intelligence, personality, and worth.
That respect carries into the hard parts, which are often not seen on social media. So we asked her, what's the hardest truth about running a sanctuary that people don't see online?
So I would say the hardest part about it is your sleepless nights that you get anytime an animal is sick and you don't know what's wrong. I've got a whole farm of animals. So you have 8 different vets. Sometimes the vets don't know what's wrong and you're just guessing at things. So you never know when one's going to pass or miraculously get better, or you take in all these animals and a lot of them are older. So you have lots of loss in short amounts of time. So I went from having 7 senior dogs. Well, one's not a senior, but 6 senior dogs, 7 total, to now I was down to 3 in a matter of less than a year. And it's just hard, one after the other like that when it happens. But then you can have, beautiful moments when everything's all glorious, but you don't necessarily post about all the bad stuff all the time. Sleepless nights and just the worry is the hardest part.
Her answer was so real. The sleepless nights, the worry, the loss.
It really does make sense, especially when you take in older animals. That worry and anticipated grief, I can see how that can be hard.
Yeah, and like she pointed out, social media doesn't show the nights where you're just hoping an animal makes it to morning.
It was such an important look into what really takes to run a sanctuary. And because rescue can lead to unpredictable moments, we asked if there's been a recovery that tested her patience or even hope.
Yes. And I would say several actually. And that's mostly in the chicken world, just because they hide their illnesses. There's not a lot of ABN that really, really, really know chickens. They know, parrots and all that kind of stuff, but they don't really know chickens. So I have dived down deep into the chicken world more than most people ever care to do. And even still, there's mystery illnesses out there with these chickens or a duck. I've had a duck come in that literally was paralyzed in the back leg, but you never know if that can heal up or not. Maybe it just got injured and it's not quite working. You could see her kind of getting better. So you had some hope. And then she would revert back to the beginning. So I wouldn't say there was like one specific animal, more so the species of animal for me.
I appreciated her honesty. Sometimes it's not one animal, it's an entire species. Like she pointed out, especially with chickens, who hide their illnesses so well.
It's definitely no easy task caring for animals, and the part that all of us with animals dread, saying goodbye. We asked Erin what is the hardest goodbye she has ever faced. Her answer starts with loss, but ends with a different type of goodbye, looking out for the animal's best interest.
So I think the easy one to say would be the loss of my dog, Foxy, who actually I had to get her euthanized because she had just, her little body couldn't take it anymore. But if I were to say the hardest actual goodbye that I probably ever had out of all the animals was a sheep named Sugar. She came to me as a baby. And so I bottle fed her and she bonded to me. I have another sheep that's a boy and he bonded to her, but she didn't really bond to him. So she got horrible, horrible anxiety. I've never seen a sheep like this. She got horrible anxiety to where she would scream unless I was out there physically with her. She would scream nonstop. So we saw different sheep vets about this. And so I found one that she even tried to put her on Prozac and Xanax, and that didn't work. So ultimately, I had to give her to my friend who is a huge farm animal rehabber. And she does wildlife and all that kind of stuff because she had a whole flock of sheep. And so that was kind of our solution to this. And even though she's still, she's there still now, but that was a really hard. I tried everything for over a year to try to get this sheep to just be okay where she was at. But I could see that, like, where she's at is really not serving her well. Even though I take very good care of her, she's not the happiest here. She needs to be somewhere where she could have a whole crew with her. And that's where she's at. And she's happy and she still wants to be inside, is what I've been told. She wants to be inside, with the people, but she's much happier with a whole group. And at that point, we couldn't accommodate a whole flock of sheep just for the one sheep. So that was my hardest goodbye, was a little sheep sugar. When I think about her, because there's this connection that I have. Like, I'm sure, y'all deal with animals world too, but there's these connections that you have with these animals, and you cannot explain it to anybody, really. They don't know what you're talking about. But I had this really wonderful connection with that sheep. I've had this really wonderful connection with, all my dogs, but mainly the dog that I was just talking about, Foxy. And one of my chickens, Mr. Mayflower, we've had such good connections with these animals that, like, even now, if they run across my mind, I kind of get a little knot in my stomach thinking about them, you know?
Her mentioning the loss of her dog Foxy was heartbreaking. And then her sheep named Sugar. She tried so hard to make her comfortable, but at the end, having to rehome her, this this type of decision takes such a strong person.
Yes, and respect to Erin for loving an animal enough to choose what's best for them, even when it hurts. That's what real love for animals looks like.
And to wrap things up, we asked one final question. What advice would she give someone dreaming of starting a sanctuary?
It would be to go talk to as many existing sanctuaries as you can and find out what they would say, and find, within your niche, like, the niche or niche. I don't know how to say that. But to go find out what they would have done differently and how they would do things now, or it's just some tips and tricks and all that, and learn how to say no, which I'm still very much learning how to do, because you do not want to get overwhelmed in this whole rescue world. If you get overwhelmed, it's not good for anybody. So learn to say no and pick and choose, which animals really need your help and which is more, I would say, like, it just kind of your responsibility of the owner, maybe, if you want to say that. So that's what I would say.
That advice was gold. Talk to as many existing sanctuaries as you can, learn from what they would do differently, and find what works for you.
But the biggest one, learn how to say no.
Because being overwhelmed doesn't help the animals, and it doesn't help you either.
A huge thank you to our guest Erin for sharing the real heart behind the Storybook Sanctuary, the joy, the grief, the learning curve, and the deep compassion that fuels all of it. If you'd like to follow their journey, we'll have the links in the description.
And we truly appreciate every like, share, and sub. It honestly means more to us than we could ever put into words. And we're just really grateful to be building this community of animal lovers together. But today, we're not asking for any of that. Instead, if you have a pet in your life, give them an extra pet or cuddle from us. And if you know someone doing rescue work or sanctuary work, take a moment to thank them. Their hard work and dedication deserve to be seen and appreciated.
Until next time, remember, even the smallest act of kindness can make a world of difference in an animal's life.